All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh, yeah.
This is a personal finance classic.
Yep.
It's one that you requested.
Yeah, a lot of requests for this one.
Yeah, it's super popular, but also, I got to say, a little bit controversial.
I think that's why it's so popular.
Yeah?
I think it's one of those,
Oh, sure.
love it or hate it, but you gotta read it kind of books.
Exactly. So we're going to be pulling out the most impactful insights so you can kind of get the most out of it without having to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
So what are your initial thoughts on the book?
Well, I mean, it's been hugely impactful, right? Like this book has really changed the conversation around money for a lot of people.
For sure.
But I think, as with all financial advice, it's good to have that healthy skepticism. Approach it with a critical mind.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Okay, so let's unpack the core concept here, which is the two dads, right?
Yeah.
You've got the poor dad,
Right.
which is his biological father.
Yes.
And then you have the rich dad, who is his friend's father.
Yeah, it's like a tale of two dads.
Exactly.
Two different perspectives on money.
Exactly. And so two different mindsets.
The poor dad represents like a more traditional mindset towards money, right?
Right. He was a highly educated guy, had a secure job.
Yeah.
Like the recipe for success, right?
Exactly. But he struggled financially.
Honestly.
Yes, his focus was on, getting a good education and getting a secure job.
Yeah.
That was what he thought would bring him success.
Yep. The classic advice
Yes.
that we're told to follow.
Right.
And then you have the rich dad.
Yeah.
Who only had an 8th grade education.
Yeah. High school dropout.
But built a massive business empire.
Self-made millionaire, right?
Yeah.
Built his own businesses and really had a different approach to money.
And that approach was financial literacy.
Yes.
Investing, building assets.
That's the key.
Yeah. And that was the key.
Yeah, not just working for money, but making your money work for you.
Yeah, so he's basically saying that's the real ticket to wealth.
That's right.
Which is a pretty bold statement, especially back when the book came out.
Right. It went against a lot of the conventional wisdom.
Yeah. And he also tells this kind of crazy story.
Oh, yeah.
About melting down toothpaste tubes to create nickels.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Yeah, that was him and his friend Mike.
Right, the rich dad's son.
Who's the rich dad's son?
Yeah.
Trying to basically invent their own money.
Trying to create wealth, right?
Right.
From nothing.
Which obviously was illegal.
Yeah, not exactly the best way to build wealth.
Yeah, but I think it illustrates this idea that real wealth isn't about shortcuts or trickery.
Exactly. It's not about get-rich-quick schemes.
Yeah.
It's about building genuine financial intelligence.
Yes.
And using it ethically.
Yes. And that's something that can be learned, right?
Absolutely.
It's not something...
It's not reserved for the elite or, people born into wealthy families.
Exactly.
Anyone can learn this stuff.
Anyone can learn it.
Yeah.
So one of his most famous principles from the book is that rich people acquire assets.
Yes.
The poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets.
That's a big one right there.
Yeah.
That's the core of the book.
So can you break down the difference between an asset and a liability? Because I think this is where people get tripped up.
Yeah, absolutely. So simply put, an asset is something that puts money in your pocket.
Okay.
And a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket.
Okay.
So it's all about the cash flow.
Cash flow.
Is it coming in or is it going out?
Okay, so for example,
yeah,
a rental property that brings in rent every month, that's an asset.
Exactly. That's putting money in your pocket.
Okay. A fancy new car with a huge loan payment?
That's a liability.
That's a liability.
Even though it might feel like an asset?
Right.
Because it's a nice thing to have.
Exactly. It's a status symbol.
Right. But it's taking money out of your pocket every month.
Exactly.
So it's a liability.
Okay. And then he also talks about houses.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a big one.
This is where he gets a little controversial.
Yeah, because a lot of people think of their house as an asset.
Right. It's the American dream, right?
Exactly.
Own your own home.
But he says that a lot of times a house is actually a liability disguised as an asset.
That's right.
Because
you've got your mortgage payments.
You got your mortgage payments.
Property taxes.
Maintenance
costs.
Insurance.
All of that stuff can really add up.
It can add up and drain your cash flow.
Exactly.
Especially if you bought more house than you could really afford.
Exactly.
Which a lot of people do.
Yeah.
They get caught up in that, keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah. So it's about being brutally honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And looking at your spending habits.
Yes.
And saying, am I buying things that will put money in my pocket?
In the long run.
In the long run? Or am I buying liabilities? Right. Are you building wealth or are you just, spending money?
Yeah, and this is where the idea of the rat race comes in.